Away here at the natatorium. Dathan Schmidt from Bloomington South, the sophomore, is first.
Dathan's performing a reverse dive in the pike position, representing Bloomington South. Southern portion of Indiana is very well represented this year at the Boys State Championship meet in diving.
Well, it seems like just yesterday we were here for the girls. Happy to have you with us again, Sean.
Thank you. Dives in the middle round and finish here with their last 3 dives in the championships. There are 16 athletes remaining. There are 32 that began with us this morning, cut to 20 after 5, and cut to the final 16 after 8 rounds.
This is Hank Dussard from Bedford North Lawrence. He's a senior.
Inward 2 somersaults in the tuck position. Hank took this dive a little bit too far back, and on an inward dive, you actually have to put a little more oomph into the finishing move than you would a front dive, because the dive is rotating in the opposite direction as the parabolic arc of the dive. It takes a little more effort to put it around. Hank put this dive in a little short.
Now we see the 7 scores up on the board, ranging from 3.5 to 6.5 for a total of 37.80. Explain exactly how that 37.80 number is arrived at.
Essentially, there are 7 judges on the panel, and the 2 highest scores, the 2 lowest scores are thrown out for a mean score of the middle 3 scores. Those are added together and multiplied by the degree of difficulty of the dive. Alex
Beck from Portage, a senior, with one that the folks here seem to like pretty well.
Alec, very nice reverse dive pike. Alec is probably one of the top 2 or 3 rippers in the contest today, and I use that term ripping. That's a sound made when the athlete hits the water, moving their arms to the right and left, creating an air cavity as the body slides through the water. And then that cavity quickly closes after they enter the water. It actually sounds like you're tearing a piece of paper. And in our sport, that is a preferred entry followed by no splash. This is another rip entry here. Front 1.5 somersault in the pike position by number 1 ranked Darien going into the finals here. Darien setting himself up for a potential of scoring over 500 points today at the front 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position. Over rotated on the bottom. Eric didn't quite kick his legs out and take a look at the entry. He didn't make a full commitment to that move, and you don't get a second chance. The dive rolled by vertical just a bit.
Waiting on the scores to be posted. The degree of difficulty 2.4 on that particular dive, and scores range from a low of 4 to a high of 5.5 for a round total of 33.60. Danton Rogers from Bloomington South is up next.
Darian's teammate, both Darian and Danton were leading the field after 8 dives today. Very interesting, coming from the same diving program. We don't see that very often. Very technically accurate, beautiful back dive pike. Inward 1.5 somersault in the pike position. I mentioned earlier, athletes are going to select a dive in either the tuck or pike position, depending on their range of movement for the most part. This pike was okay, but very rounded in the back. There's a limitation, the hamstring flexibility here, and that's going to be a factor in the scoring.
The low 4.5, the high 8.5, primarily 6s and 6.5s, a round of 44.40 for Jonah Snyder of Carroll. Tyler Offit, Evansville Wrights, a junior, up next.
Tyler did a nice job setting up this reverse 1.5 somersault in the pike position. Very smooth coming off the board. He's got long legs, but he did a nice job keeping him relatively straight, getting into the position. He did press the come out. He made his come out move a little bit early, so he landed slightly on his back.
36, the score total for him in that round, making way for Alex Jones, the senior from Fishers High School.
Front 1.5 pike, seamless entry, a hair wash by with the feet, but a good midair position, a good presentation of the dive. This would be in the 7 range, 6.5, 7 range is my guess.
1.7 on the degree of difficulty. Right you are. The low 6.5, the high 8.5. The total for the round, 36.55. Next up, Brandon Davis from Floyd Central, a senior.
got a mop top here. Interesting variable hairstyles here with our divers.
Uh-huh.
Inward dive pike, all around solid skill, straight up and down vertical, very little splash. We know this dive carried a little bit further back than some of the other voluntary dives. So it'd be a deduction on distance, not much else.
Total for the round, 30 points, giving him a total of 298.45. Shane Wyckoff is next from the Vikings of West Vigo, out in Vigo County. Just across the Wabash River from beautiful downtown Terre Haute.
It's the reverse one somersault in the pike position. Judges have a preference to see the dives go in on their head. It's the foot first entry, so there's going to be a stereotype against the dive to begin with, just based on a judging preference to see it go in vertical. However, if you can't make the dive, you can't make the next skill, it's a wise layup move to simply do a single flip or a double flip to your feet.
The low 6.5, the high 8.5, a couple of 8s and a couple of 7s. Decent scoring round, a 37.40.
I'm going to say that the panel did a great job of ignoring the fact that that was a foot first dive, and they just scored it as was. There was actually a traditional prejudice against foot first entry was not apparent on that dive. Good job, panel.
Stephen Rice, a freshman from Mishawaka, Marion.
Inward dive in the pike position. It's a voluntary dive and a very simple skill. It's got the lowest degree of difficulty of any of the voluntaries. And this dive went short, so compared to all the other inward dives in the contest, this one will score a bit lower.
And it'll score 30.75, giving him a total score of 303.70. Moving on, Joshua Batten, the junior from LaPorte.
He's checking out what dive the guy announced, making sure it's what he plans on throwing.
Made a little adjustment to the board before he climbed on.
Front full twisting 1.5, and a good height and distance. The boys tend to jump a little more than the girls. Sometimes their strength does not enhance necessarily their form. However, we're at the final 3 rounds, and these 16 divers have proven at least through the first 8 rounds today that they are succeeding in both form and strength.
Scored well there, 46.20. His total, 342.25. Next up from Whiteland, Derek Pennington, who's a senior.
Derek's a great athlete and jumps really well. He's got great arm pattern, good sequence of movement. The only area he could probably improve in would be form. It's a front full twisting 1.5, a little loose in the feet on the entry move. He could probably square out his arms a little more prior to the final pike into the dive.
His total, 41.80, giving him an overall total of 332.75. Next up will be James Raber from Valparaiso, a senior.
Front 1.5 in the pike position. Very conservative, consistent movement patterns. Arms didn't quite come all the way up over his head on the start, and he didn't quite post his arms out in a lateral position for the out. Very simple, down the middle, up the middle movement for the 1.5 pike.
34.85, an overall total of 312.40. Lastly, Andrew Kramer, a freshman from Cathedral.
It's a couple freshmen. Stephen Rice and Andrew Kramer are our 2 freshman representatives here in the finals. Andrew's got a pretty good rip entry as well. He's a platform diver, so 1 meter's not his specialty. He's been a USA diver for a while, and